What's up, guys? It's Brian Alsruhe with Neverstate.com, and in this video, I want to talk to you guys about what it takes to go beyond average. It would be my guess that almost all of you have the physical capabilities of going beyond what an average lifter can achieve, but maybe it's the mindset that's holding you back. I know I've mentioned it in numerous other videos, but I still consider myself to be an intermediate lifter, and I know a ton of people lose their mind when I say that I'm still an intermediate lifter because they say, if you're intermediate, what does that make me? I would say an intermediate lifter. I want you guys to kind of think of it in pro sports terms. So I think a very average person can play a high school sport or a club sport. That would be your average gym goer, the person who goes in, lifts weights, runs on a treadmill, just kind of does their thing, works out a couple times a week. That is your average individual. And there's nothing wrong with being average if that's what you're happy doing. But if you have the physical skills to play a high school sport, let's say football, then if you really apply yourself and you really work hard at it, then maybe you could take the step up to intermediate lifter. This would be going a little bit beyond average. Now, it's only my personal belief, but I think most people who are in the gym working out multiple times a week fall in that intermediate category. They are no longer in the beginner gain stage where they're just doing muscle patterns and learning new motor patterns to get stronger, and they're not really actually getting stronger, they're just learning how to do the movements better. When you move beyond that into the intermediate stage, you need to start thinking about things like programming, recovery, rest, your diet. All those things start coming into account. Now, like I said, almost everyone who spent a couple years in the gym is in this intermediate stage, and it is only my personal opinion, but I think you can be an intermediate literally for decades. Now, if you ask anyone who has actually played a college sport and made it to the pros, it is a night and day difference. Somebody at that professional sports player level are the same type of people that I see in the advanced lifter category. They're people who do not make many mistakes. Their basics are down pat. Their technique is surgical. This does not describe me. Every single time I walk in the gym, I'm still learning something new. I'm screwing things up. I'm still working on my basics. That's why I consider myself an intermediate lifter. I do not think the amount of weight that you lift has anything to do with where you're at as far as beginner, intermediate, or advanced stages. Obviously, there's going to be a pretty direct correlation, but there are plenty of people who have never deadlifted a weight in their life who go in and they out deadlift. They can lift twice as much as somebody who's been going to the gym for 5 years. Does that mean that that person that is deadlifting for the very first time is an advanced lifter? No. Stephen Pressfield wrote an awesome book called The War of Art that deals a lot with this subject, but what really separates the difference between an amateur and a professional most of the time isn't really their physical skills. For the most part, they're still pretty close there. What changes is their mindset. The first absolutely massive thing that I think people need to do to make that jump to go beyond average is stop accepting excuses for themselves. I'm guilty of this, you're guilty of this, everyone is guilty of this. This is something that goes way beyond lifting weights. This will apply to every single thing in your life. Every single time that you make a statement like, yeah, I could deadlift 500 pounds if I was on drugs, or I could deadlift 500 pounds if I had a coach, or I could deadlift 500 pounds if I had his genetics. The second that you start focusing on the second part of the sentence, you're already beating yourself. I'm guilty of doing the exact same thing, guys, but the second that we start doing that, we start accepting the fact that we're already beaten. You're giving yourself a way out. You're giving yourself a safety net. You're giving yourself a chance to say, well, I'm gonna try, but if I fail, it's because of this. I could have done really well at that contest, but I had pulled my hamstring 2 weeks before, so I don't really know how that's gonna go. Or you always are coming up with excuses for if you do not achieve a certain level, that it's gonna sting a little less, but it doesn't. It stings just as much. Failure hurts no matter how you frame it. The people that you look up to and have achieved the most things in their lives made a decision at some point to say, I am no longer going to accept excuses for myself. I'm going to find a way to make this happen. I'm going to use the obstacles as a way, and I'm going to overcome. And average people are just going to continue to make excuses for why they can't make something happen. So when I put out that video after the national championships where I was obviously upset about how I placed, I told you guys, I have zero excuses. These guys are just better than me at this time. I am going to do whatever I need to do to get to their level and beat them and be competitive and win that national championship. That is something that I'm going to do. That is a winner's mentality. However, so many people have responded to me both in person or on YouTube or on other things. Yeah, but those guys were faster. Those guys were on drugs. Those guys were bigger. Those guys were more athletic. Those guys have been doing it longer. Wow. None of that matters to me. None of that is going to make me better, make me feel better, or lessen the pain of that loss. That pain of that loss is what is going to drive me to get in the gym and work my butt off and become better and do whatever it takes takes, make the sacrifices, and become a better athlete. If I start to accept the fact that someone just has better coaching, or they have been doing this longer and I'm never going to catch up, or they are running so many drugs, or whatever the case may be, the second that I start to believe that, and I start to believe that there is not a chance for me, I might as well give up. Because whether you believe you can do something or you can't do something, you are 100% right. So that's step number one to going beyond average. You need to stop accepting excuses for yourself or any excuses that someone else makes up for you. You need to be responsible for your actions. And before you open up your mouth in any situation, think about how it sounds. I could deadlift 500 pounds if I had a Texas deadlift bar. Does that sound like a powerful statement? Does that sound like somebody who's going to achieve something in their lives? Or does that sound like someone's making an excuse? What type of person do you want to be? Do you want to be the person that says, I'm going to deadlift 500 pounds. I don't care if it kills me. I am going to go and go and go, and one day I'm going to be standing with 500 pounds, and I'm going to prove y'all wrong. Believe it's going to happen. Or do you want to be known as a guy who's always saying, yeah, I could do that if I had this, if I had that, if I had that. And here's the secret about those people. You give that person a Texas deadlift bar, and then it's going to be, oh, well, yeah, I could deadlift 500 pounds if this Texas deadlift bar had a little better knurling. Or if I had knee sleeves. There's always going to be an excuse. Winners stop making excuses for themselves and refuse to accept the excuses that other people create for them. Take responsibility for your actions, take responsibility for the words that come out of your mouth, and become better. That's step one. Step two is you need to change what you think is and is not possible. So up to not that long ago, people believed that you could not run a 4-minute mile. It had never been done before, and doctors literally said, if you run a mile, if a human being runs a mile in less than 4 minutes, their heart is going to explode, they are going to die. And then one dude did it. And you know what happened? Like 12 other people that year did it. Did people suddenly get faster? No. People's little preconceived glass ceilings got shattered, they saw a new level of possible, and now everyone was striving for that. The same exact thing happens every single day here on YouTube. Someone will comment on my thing, man, you are unworldly strong. I will never be as strong as you. There's such a small amount of population that will ever be as strong as you. And if you guys know me, you see that typically my answer is always, it depends who I'm standing next to. Because if I go back to 2006, when I put my very first video up on YouTube, I was squatting 500, it may have been for 1 or 3 or something like that. And what actually happened there was I was keeping it along on T-Nation, and I thought I was super strong. Some people thought I was strong, but a lot of people did not believe that I could lift the weights that I could do. So I said, fine, I'll prove it to you. I'll put it up on YouTube and show you guys the lifts. But a funny thing happened when I went on YouTube. I started looking around at other people doing these lifts, and I realized that I was not strong. In my commercial gym, I was the strongest guy. Pound for pound, I was probably the strongest guy overall there, hands down. No doubt, at my commercial gym. But then I looked at what the rest of the world was doing, and I realized that what I was doing was very, very average. My impossible needed to change. There was a time when I did not think a human being could deadlift 600 pounds, and then I saw guys at like 150 pounds doing it. The impossible changed. So I think it would help a lot of people. If you are the strongest person in your group of friends, you might need to start finding some stronger friends. It is guaranteed that if you start lifting with people who are stronger than you, then you will get stronger. That is a guarantee. However, that's not necessarily an option. But when I was growing up, we did not have the internet. You guys have access to seeing what the best people in the entire world are doing. You guys have access to the best coaches in the entire world telling you exactly how to squat, how to deadlift, how to do anything on the internet. That is an awesome tool that you can use. So stop looking at people and saying, wow, that's really impressive. I bet I'll never be able to do that. And start saying, well, if that person can do it, I can do it. Stop making excuses saying, well, that person's obviously on drugs, or that person has all the best coaching in the world, or that person has all the genetics. That is a weak excuse for everything, and you are never gonna get anywhere if you keep focusing on that portion of the sentence. You need to look at the first portion of the sentence where you say, I could deadlift 500 pounds. You can do it, but you need to change what is possible. If you are the strongest guy in your gym at 405 pounds, it's gonna be very tough for you to climb to 500 pounds. If every single other person around you, or you're comparing yourself to other people in your weight class on the internet who are all deadlifting 600 pounds, 405 pounds doesn't seem so insurmountable anymore. It's just like the dumbbells in the gym. If your dumbbells in your gym only go up to 100 pounds, no one uses the 100-pound dumbbells. Everyone stays in the 80 to 90 range. However, if your dumbbells go up to 150 pounds, a lot of people use those 100-pound dumbbells. Guys will go on the 115, 120, 130. Now no one uses the 150s. It's all what people believe they're gonna be capable of. I can't possibly use the heaviest dumbbells in the gym because they're the heaviest dumbbells in the gym. That is junk. The heaviest dumbbells in the gym are nothing. You are strong. You need to start changing what you think is possible and change what you think is impossible, and that will change your reality. Belief changes reality. It's pretty much the only thing that does. So there you guys go. I talked a little bit more than I wanted to, but I get excited. Make a decision today about who you want to be. Do you want to be the person who makes excuses and just throws hate out on the internet, claiming why someone can do something, making yourself feel better because you are not able to? Or do you want to be the guy who is going to find a way to get it done? Do you want to be the guy who keeps saying, oh no, that's not possible for me. I don't have the genetics. I don't have this. I don't have that. Or do you want to be the guy who says, screw genetics. I have little short T-Rex arms. That makes me awesome at benching. I am going to work on my deadlift until I cannot work the deadlift anymore and bring it up to speed. Choose the person you want to be today and choose your reality. Forget about who you've been in the past. You get a clean slate starting right now. You can either make the decision to become better and go beyond average, or you can stay the same and you're never gonna reach the levels of the people that you aspire to be like. That's all I got, guys. I will catch up with you later in the week, but until then, go out, do something amazing for your lives, change what you believe is possible, be nice to each other, and I'll catch up with you then.